Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back after lunch. Desperately aware this is potentially the graveyard slot where everybody's had a little bit too much and not enough caffeine, etc. But really a warm welcome from me to this session. My name is Mo, and I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes or so just talking to you about what we perceive to be the future of user experience in terms of the OTT platform. So we are a creative engineering company, and we've been established for about 11 years, and we work across a lot of different platforms. Our offices are based in New York, San Antonio, and London. We're just up the road in the Broadway, so do come and say hello if you'd like to. And this is just a flavor of some of the clients that we work with. And with these clients, we tend to put everything that we do, or rather put the user at the heart of everything that we do for these clients. And I'll kind of keep referring back to this as we go along about what we mean in terms of what that user experience is and what does a product being used by a user mean. So let me just very briefly talk about our ecosystem, which covers, as I said, a wide spectrum, but clearly we are here today to talk about the OTT space. And what I wanted to touch upon here is really the shift that we've seen in the landscape. So I won't dwell on this too much because obviously I'm at a streaming conference and all you guys are in the business. But the traditional model of AVOD, SVOD, TVOD we've seen has amalgamated, and it has kind of come crashing together. And the result of that is phone screens like this, which I'm sure that you will all be familiar with. So on the right hand is my phone. There's some UK-specific stuff on there, because obviously, if my accent didn't give me away, I'm I'm from the London office. And on the right is one of my colleagues in the States. So really the point I'm trying to make is that the paradigm has shifted, and we are in an attention economy. And your eyeballs, but really, let's face it, your dollars, that is what this attention economy kind of relates to. So what we've seen is that the paradigm is really shifting. And so to stand out from the crowd, there are certain things that we think you should be doing, because actually the freemium model or the free trial model did work. And I signed up for Netflix 5-6 years ago, however long ago, and I did the free trial. And I haven't looked back since. I've been paying my £7 or $8 a month since. But this year, with the upcoming Disney Plus and Apple TV Plus and, I'm starting to get my head above the water. And I'm thinking, actually, am I going to continue my Netflix? Or am I going to go look elsewhere? So really, this is what we want to talk about. We want to talk about some principles that we believe will be key to your OTT strategy going forward. So the first one for us is live streaming, because live content still absolutely matters. And we think that the rapid growth of mobile and the internet means that expectations are really high. I think it was in one of the other tracks that I saw where it was commented that the expectation of the end user is that live streaming is better, if not the same as your linear TV experience. So obviously latency reduction is important. We've heard a lot about that in the other sessions. I'm not necessarily going to go into that per se, but what I want to talk about is sport, because I think that's where, if you have rights, this becomes really important. So I don't know how many people were familiar with the FIFA Soccer World Cup, which was held last year. The England team succeeded expectations, and they were one of 4. They did eventually go out. But let me give you a real-world problem that we faced. We also had inexplicably good weather last summer in England, which meant that a lot of people had windows open. Now, can anyone find the potential flaw where I'm going with this? Because there was people watching on linear, and there was people watching on live streaming. And what it meant was that effectively those watching on the live streaming had spoilers. So they heard the goals coming from their fans. So why do I think this is really important? Why do I think sport is key? Because, and I could put lots and lots of these graphs up, right? But this is from PwC, and it shows associated revenue for North American sports from 2011 through to 2020. It's just going to keep going up, 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 and up. And that's the reason why a lot of sport federations, like the NBA, like the NFL, like MotoGP, they are going direct to consumers. They're going over the top. Now, there's also the kind of aggregators in Matchroom Boxing and DAZN, but equally, other federations in Europe we've seen are going direct to consumers. In UEFA, which is the governing body for soccer in Europe, we're very lucky to be working with them and building their OTT offering, which will be launching at the end of the summer. And that's a huge move in football because the live rights in football has been traditionally carved out and sold to the broadcasters. So the point I'm really trying to make is that if you do have live rights, now that could be sports or it could be other aspects, having a live experience strategy is absolutely crucial to your OTT strategy in the future. Now, this could be as simple as the latency stuff that we talked about, or how you design the user interface, having a no spoilers mode, etc. So that's number one. Let me move to number two, which is interactive storytelling. Anybody familiar with these single-player game books? Show of hands, no? Oh, one, okay, excellent. Nadine knows because I've told her from before. But effectively, these books were written such that you, as the reader, would make decisions of your protagonist. So you would get to a certain page, there would be a decision that you could make for your protagonist, and that will tell you whether to go to page 5 or whether to get to page 2. So it's kind of creating your own experience. And what we've seen is that this is now starting to move from the written words to OTT. Bandersnatch. Again, show of hands, anyone familiar with this? Anybody? Okay, a few in the room. So this is a really fascinating concept, and it effectively gives you, the user, the ability to make decisions for your favorite characters as the TV program continues, using your remote. So I'll give you an example. Do I select Sugar Puffs or do I select Frosties? Now, this on the face of it is a really nice concept because it's quite sticky. And it will mean that the variation of the story will change based on the decisions that you make for your character. But the other aspect of this, which is really interesting, is obviously product placement. So it starts to bring potentially other revenue models. But another aspect that this brings, and I'm going to have to go back to my notes because this chap who made a GDPR request to Netflix, his name was Michael Veal. He was a researcher, and he just wanted to know what information Netflix held on him. And obviously the GDPR laws now put the user at the forefront. And he found that Netflix had recorded every single decision that he had made, giving them the power and the ability to then start to market to him. Quite fascinating when you start to think about it like that. The ability to open up these potentially new avenues that you get to learn more about your users. And they're not backing down. Netflix are going to continue. So this Bear Grylls one actually I think is live already and it's on their platform. They're going to be looking at interactivity a bit more. Others are getting in on the act. So Westworld have released an interactive Alexa skill. So I guess our point really here is that there is a lot of potential in interactivity, not only for the storytelling, but to open up potentially new revenue streams. Okay, so the third one, which is kind of related. So data, and we've heard a lot about AI and machine learning here, is really important in creating an OTT strategy, both in terms of acquisition, but retention, and what you can do to kind of enhance that experience. So this kind of goes as simple as data-driven decisions. User A and B watch the same show, so suggest what user B watched for user A. Or streaming quality, using data from before to be able to kind of enable regional servers for fast load times. But then what about taking things like this, where you personalize the image that you see for a show? Now, again, this is happening behind the scenes. So what you're seeing on the top row is someone who has watched a lot of a sort of comedy, sorry, I beg your pardon, a lot of romance, which has led to creation of the right-hand side. And then on the bottom, you're seeing someone who has had a history of comedy, watching comedy, and what you're seeing is a slightly different. So really smart things that you can start to do in this space. Now, we worked with, very timely, because obviously they've had the baby today, for those that haven't heard. We worked with Sky News in the UK for Harry and Meghan's wedding last year to create an interactive video player that worked on machine learning. So there was an algorithm behind it, which recognized celebrities as they walked down the red carpet and towards the church, and displayed additional information about that celebrity on the right-hand side. So a slightly different use case for machine learning and the ability for AI to contribute. A slightly different version that I also kind of wanted to talk about. Lexus this year developed and filmed a 60-second TV advert which was purely written by an AI computer, by an AI algorithm rather. So this script was based on 15 years worth of data that Lexus had, and the video should in theory start playing in the background, had gathered in the last 15 years. Now clearly the machine didn't film it, that creative process passed on, but I think the fact that user sentiment and what they believed had worked for them previously ended up creating this advert, which is effectively focused on the chap that you just saw who has a connection and has designed the car, and then is subsequently at home watching the car being tested. It's a fascinating concept, and to believe that actually, a computer based on the analysis of what people had responded to had come up with this is really quite staggering. So there we go. This is towards the end of it. Point being, Lexus brakes work. So I'm not a Lexus salesman, I should add, but it's just I thought it was a very good advert. So really, our point here is that we fundamentally believe AI and ML are huge and can add value, but they'll require investment. Now, I know that's very easy for me to stand up in here and say, but clearly the ripples of that, I believe, will start to come to fruition in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think for a future-proofed OTT, there will need to be elements that are woven into the fabric of it. And the last point that I wanted to talk about is augmented reality. Now, this is probably slightly more forward into the future, but I believe something that hasn't been tapped to. My personal fascination with AR probably started with film. Anyone hazard a guess what film this is? True Lies, absolutely. So there we go. So the ability for Arnold to have a look to see what his teenage daughter was doing behind his back, something relevant for me, as I have a young daughter, and I'm hoping by the time she's old, I'll have this ability. But equally then carried on throughout the years. So Mr. Cruz in Minority Report, and don't worry, no Endgame spoilers, but I think something that is really, really untapped, and this is a bit of a, potentially a comment that can potentially be challenged, because there are still others out there that believe VR is going to work, but I don't think VR in the OTT world is going to work. Nokia dropped their support for the OZA camera. NRK equally followed in 2018. The International Association for Broadcasters and Media did a survey last year, and 60% of broadcasters said they didn't really have any plans to commercialize and monetize this. And this got me thinking about, actually, if the VR is moving away, then what about AR? And there's 3 things that I want to talk to you about. The first is the at-home experience. So we've all got supercomputers in our pockets, right? Our phones are supercomputers. I would wager a bet 30% of this room probably has 2 supercomputers in their pockets, because you'll have a work phone and a personal phone. So I think there is space for this to add to the OTT experience by having additional aspects of the story brought to life when you hold your phone towards the TV screen if you're on the 10-foot experience. So this kind of bleeds into linear as well. But I think also aspects like overlays and showing additional content about the actors, etc. quite an interesting niche. The next one for me is actually the on-the-move experience. So the ability to utilize the camera and utilize the location to give supplementary or to enhance your experience on the OTT platform. So imagine having a campaign whereby to get the trailer for next week's Game of Thrones, you have to go to a certain location, or you have to unlock by going past a location. Not too dissimilar to the world of gaming. So this game, was very big when it came out, and now ironically has gone the other way. It's a film, but I think there is value and there is aspects in this. This was purely really to just show you kind of what I had in mind. The Game of Thrones example is actually what I want to talk about, the third example, which is in your marketing campaign. So this is an AR piece that they released at the start of the series, and really with a view to not only generate excitement, but also a really cool, interesting marketing aspect. So really, our point here is that we believe AR is a completely untapped feature for OTT, and it does, of course, bleed into all of the different various aspects from technology to content, but something that we would explore, something that we would advise you to explore. So, in summary, the landscape is evolving. We all know this. And for an OTT offering to stand out, we believe there's 4 aspects. We talked about live strategy, we talked about interactivity, we talked about data-driven and AI and augmented reality. But I think the final point is that this it can't work in solo, so it has to work with unison with all the other aspects. So you need alignment on your marketing and your commercial strategy, and you need to have the ability to put the user and think of the things that you do through their lens. So we are here, we're at the event, we're at booth 129. Come say hello. That's us, that's me and my 2 colleagues. And I think we're now probably going to pull out the draw for the prize. So with that in mind, firstly, sorry, any questions? I should have probably done that. Troy?
Yes, we have time for a couple questions. Who's got a stumper for Mo? Anyone? Let's see. Anyone? Okay, good. They know we like questions here. Yep.
What sort of AR equipment are you recommending for the consumer side to take part of the OTT AR platform? That's
an excellent question, and I don't have a simple answer because I think there are tools out there. I think for me, whatever is the most frictionless is I think what will be the most successful.
What about the compatibility from going from one AR experience to another? I know some are like, if you go just on the audio side alone, some are like aimed at the Bose system and it won't work on others and so forth.
That's a really good point. So again, I don't have a simple answer. And I think that whilst the proliferation of the OTT platforms continue, you will continue to get things like that. But at some point, I believe that these things will start to come back together. And fundamentally, if that continues to happen, it will, in my view, it will put the users off and they won't use it. So there has to be a common thread that can unify that experience for it to be as frictionless as possible. I'll give you a perfect example. In my view, Uber, very, very frictionless, works the same across whatever kind of platform that you have. So I know that's a little bit different, but if you can unify it and run that uniform user experience through it, I think it will end up working. But again, I would hasten to add that this is probably in a 5 to 10 year in the future category, in my view.
You're saying, to quote the FCC, back in the game stereo days, you're letting the marketplace decide.
Yeah, I think so. I think, why not? I mean, look, ultimately, users are the ones that will drive what we do. And I think that there's actually a lot of value in insights-driven product development. And I think that we're probably all too guilty of thinking that we know best, but not asking the user and not coming back with what we believe to be the kind of what they were looking for. Does that make sense?
Okay, do we have another one for Mo? Anyone? One more? No? Okay, Mo, I think you did a real good job. I think you should come back tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
About 4 o'clock?
Yeah, let's talk about sports next time.
Sure, why not?
Okay, big round of applause for Mo Hamdhaidari.